Welcome to our, I think this is our fifth candidates forum that we've done over the past few days. And I want to thank our candidates for joining us this morning and taking time out of what has been, I'm sure, a busy campaign season as we wind down to the last little less than 2 weeks before Election Day. I also want to thank Mike King with the Mike King Biz radio show. He is our facilitator for the day. Many of you know we host Chamber Wednesday every other week on his show. He's been a wonderful partner helping us facilitate these conversations. We have about a dozen or so questions that we're going to go through, and they really are conversation questions, really for candidates to give their thoughts and opinions and ideas of what they see happening or what they've seen take place. You'll have a couple minutes for opening statement introductions, and then a couple minutes at the end for a closing statement introduction. And then each question for you all will be about 90 seconds. We've had, this is our fifth try on the cookbook recipe, so we're well equipped and ready to go. And again, I appreciate you all joining us. We've got a few listeners. We will have these released in about 48 hours. So after the recordings, we will tag you all's campaign pages on social media. They will stay warehoused on our Chamber YouTube channel. And so you can share these recordings as you wish with your constituents in and out in the community. So with that and no further ado, Mike, take it away.
Alrighty, thank you, Danielle. Can everyone hear me? Oh, yes, I'm good. So I would like to thank you guys for joining us. Danielle, it's always a pleasure. Carrie and Jasmine, welcome to the program. If you guys could give a little bit of a history about yourselves, an opening statement, and then we'll go down through the list of questions. The first one will deal with education and workforce development. Ms. Coyner, is that am I saying that correctly?
It is, but you can call me Carrie, and that's perfectly fine.
All righty, Carrie. And I'm Mike, Jasmine Gore. Hello.
Morning.
All righty, Carrie, we can start with you a little bit about yourself.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, Mike. Thank you to the Chesterfield Chamber for hosting this. I have lived in the community in Chesterfield my entire life, born and raised in the district that I am now serving as the current delegate in, and have been a small business owner here for the last 15 years and a chamber member of the Chesterfield Chamber that entire time. When I got out of law school, I took an internship in a law office in Chesterfield, and I immediately started serving, working on the Government Affairs Committee of the Chesterfield Chamber, so I know how hard you all work. Also helped get the CHAMPS Education Committee started when I was there as well, so I know how important the work is. I have worked really hard over the last 2 years as your delegate for the 62nd District to get things done, specifically in the areas of education, jobs, and public safety. I have worked really, really hard to be bipartisan. I had the most legislation passed of anyone in the minority party as a freshman delegate. Have a track record of working with folks regardless of party or issue, and have been very fortunate to be recognized as the Legislator of the Year for the Virginia School Boards Association, recognized and endorsed by the Small Business Association NFIB, one of only 10 members of the House to get a 100% A+ rating from the state chamber, and the top supporter of manufacturing legislation. So education, jobs, and safety, working really hard to get things done for our community. Look forward to this conversation today.
All righty, thank you. Jasmine Gore.
Well, good morning. I also want to thank the Chamber for allowing us to participate in this forum this morning. I am currently a local elected official for the city of Hopewell. I have served on city council since 2012, and I was most recently mayor in 2019 and 2020. I was actually the youngest African-American mayor within the Commonwealth of Virginia during the pandemic. I've served at various levels of government, including those at the state and national levels. I currently chair the Chesapeake Bay Local Government board, which is a multi-state board. And I am the voice for states from New York, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and other places. I've also served on the Virginia Board of Medicine, as well as an advisor to the VCU College of Humanities and Science. I'm running this election cycle to make sure that we tell our state house to don't forget that all politics are local. As a local elected official, I know what it takes to make sure that citizens improve their quality of life as we rebound throughout the pandemic. And I'm here just to make sure that our voices are heard and that the issues that matter most to us are elevated. Thank you.
All righty, on the mic with Mike King here. We are with the delegates for the 62nd District here, and this is the Chesterfield Chamber Delegate Forum. We're going to start off with education and workforce development. Carrie, we'll start with you. Can you briefly explain your overall philosophy on K-12 education?
Sure. Well, I came from serving on the Chesterfield County School Board for 8 years. I was named School Board Member of the Year in 2013 when I served there, and recently received the Legislator of the Year award serving in the House. My philosophy on K-12 education is that we must be doing more to support our public schools. I've been a big proponent of resetting our standards of quality as a state, fully funding the true positions we need in our schools, increasing our funding for our school staff, including our teachers and others. I carried the first real reform bill that's been done for SOL legislation ever in Virginia, and had it passed and fully funded last year, so that in 2024, our 3rd through 8th graders in reading and math will no longer have high stakes SOLs, but will have true growth assessments that allows us to know where every single individual child in Virginia starts a school year, and ensuring that they're growing and learning over the course of that year. So public education, so important. It is what gives us opportunities in the future, and we'll continue advocating for the best for our schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Jasmine, can you briefly explain your overall philosophy on K through 12 education?
Thank you. So as a local elected official, our job is to appoint members to our school board, and most importantly, to fund our school district. And so I wholeheartedly believe in making sure that we have equitable funding. But one of the reasons why I'm running for delegate is because oftentimes local governments have to fill in the gap. When we raise teachers' pay, we're not funding all the positions that are in a school district, to include our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, everyone that makes the system work. And so we have to fill in the gap with using creative techniques to find that funding. And so I recognize that supporting our education, especially those at the higher level, is really important. Additionally, as a local elected official, we fought hard to make sure we had Wi-Fi during the pandemic. And so I think that it's important for us to invest in not only the infrastructure, but the curriculum, to make sure that everyone has what they need in order to advance. And I believe that one of the key areas of making sure that we do that is making sure that we invest not only in teachers, but also parents and students.
Alrighty, Jasmine, we'll stay with you. Are you in favor of getting rid of SOLs as well? What's your plan to get us away from teaching to the test, the SOL, and focusing more on teaching to the content and curriculums?
I support adjusting the guidelines to remove SOL standards, or to revisit how the parameters are put in place in order for us to identify if students have meet benchmarks. I've toured our schools several times, and I distinctly remember a conversation that I had with a local teacher, and she showed me on her wall charts of where her students were throughout different testing cycles. And she said, if we're just going by these metrics, you're not going to see the growth of my babies. You're not going to see how far they've come throughout the year. And you can really see that in the teachers and how hard and dedicated they are. And so I definitely believe that we need to revisit how we look at making sure that students are meeting benchmarks as well as faculty, because we also need to make sure that our teachers are meeting the benchmarks they need to, and to ensure that our students are getting the education that they're entitled to. And so I believe that there is a mixture, but I also believe that we should remove it in order to put in place a better system to make sure everyone is treated fairly, and that the results are what we need to see in terms of comprehension.
Alrighty, thank you. So Carrie, same question. Are you in favor of getting rid of SOLs? And what's your plan to get us away from teaching to the test and focusing more on teaching to content and curriculums?
Sure. Well, thank you for that question. This goes back to my passion being public education. Again, I was able last year to do exactly what you're talking about, which is we need testing. Testing is important, right? We need to be able to see where all of our children are, but we need to ensure that the tests that we're giving are giving us back information and data that we truly know parents and teachers and students alike can see that their kids are learning, progressing, and growing. Our current state format has been these high stakes end of year tests, where when teachers receive that data at the end of the year, they no longer have that student in their classroom. They're sending them off to someone else's classroom and they can't improve upon any instruction for that child at that point. The bill I was able to pass last year, our 3rd through 8th graders in reading and math starting in 2024 are going to be taking computer adaptive tests so that they're shorter. They will receive one at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, where we are able to see at the beginning of the year, where are the gaps for kids, so that teachers and parents alike can walk alongside children to help them grow. And we'll be able to see at the end of the year where every single child is. It's going to allow us to better define supports for summer school, for our school divisions and year-round learning, those intersessions and how important they are. So excited to keep working on more SOL reform. We made some progress last year, and I look forward to continue chipping away at it.
All righty, staying with education, Carrie, we have Virginia mandates 2 credentials for students when they graduate high school. How does that play into testing?
You know, Mike, I think it's so important when we look at the skills that we want our young people to have when they leave K-12 education, that they are ready to immediately step in and that they have a skill set they can use in the workforce, and also a path forward if they so choose for college or military or whatever, wherever their journey takes them. You know, I really look at our K-12 system as our role is to open up doors and pathways for children. We should help them figure out what their passions and their gifts and their talents are, and help them choose those credentials based on what they think they might want to do. We have so many kids now who are choosing to work and obtain their college credits alongside while they're working. We have businesses who want to take kids straight out of high school who are credentialed and allow them to continue working on their post-secondary work while they're employed, and such great opportunities. We have some amazing businesses in Hopewell and Chesterfield who are doing some of that training and continuing education as well. So we really need to continue supporting our community colleges who are continuing that education once our kids leave K-12, picking up on those credentials and continuing that path forward so that our kids are ready for higher paid jobs and the best businesses located in our community. So we've been blessed with a strong community college system here in the 62nd district. And I look forward to continue that connection from 12th grade, moving on to continued education in our college systems.
Thank you. Jasmine, same question. Virginia mandates 2 credentials for students when they graduate. How does that play into testing?
I definitely believe that we should put more emphasis in making sure that we balance that out. As I mentioned earlier, I think that there needs to be a complete revision to this process. One of the things I'm very proud of is that I currently chair the Creator Workforce Region, which encompasses 9 different localities. And we work closely with our community college system, as well as the state, to make sure that we have programs in place to help students who are out of school, but are high school age. Additionally, I think that we need to expand that to go down to our middle school, because believe it or not, students at that age have an idea about what they want to do. And so when they go into high school, they should be equipped to be able to take the technical training classes that they need in order to advance themselves. But most importantly, I think that the more funding needs to be made available to ensure that we are marketing this service to everyone equitably. And the last thing I'll definitely share is Hopewell is the first school district in Virginia to make Balance Your Calendar a district-wide initiative. And so in part of that, we have intersessions where we partner with businesses in order for the students to get hands-on training in the real world. And we're going to have a funding shortage if we do not get some support from the state in order to continue that effort. And so if we're going to say that we support, I definitely think we need to back it up by making sure we put the investments where they need to be.
Ladies, as we continue with the conversation of education, Jasmine, can you talk about the importance of continuing to support training centers like CCWA and other community colleges?
Absolutely. And so the training centers, especially through Virginia Career Works, are funded mostly through federal WIOLA dollars. And it takes the localities to put additional investments into those programs in order to help adults, dislocated workers, youth that are out of school, as well as our veterans. And as I mentioned earlier, I am the chair for our Creator region. And we need to have additional investments from the state in order to expand the services for staff that we can hire, the amount of business support that we can render. One of the things that we're looking at right now as we revamp that process is making sure we touch our local businesses to make sure that we understand the needs that they have in order to be able to hire people, but then also keep their doors open. And so when we talk about investing in our workforce centers, I think that there needs to be a supplement to the federal monies that are given to us as localities to be able to utilize those services to really get the most impact out of it. They're oftentimes underused because of transportation, marketing, and a lack of ability to provide services in all of the jurisdictions that fall under them. And so I think that needs to be a priority, especially if we're going to look at the future of work in the Commonwealth and to deal with our unemployment numbers.
Alrighty, thank you, Carrie. Same question. Can you talk about the importance of continuing to support training centers like CCWA and other community colleges?
Yes, so I'm proud to have voted for expansion of our workforce skills training while serving in the House. Also really ensuring that we continue funding Virginia's community college credentialing programs, especially to address worker shortages in high demand fields. You know, we have a huge problem right now with folks who are unemployed and their skills don't match the job openings that are happening right now. So I'm continuing to fully fund our community college workforce training centers and helping people get connected. You know, one of the things we also need to really look at are our different regional workforce groups that if they are not spending their dollars to improve workforce training, that we look as the state at stepping in and ensuring that those dollars are spent. You know, we have folks within our very own community who have said, look, we need more support from our workforce readiness folks, and we're not getting it. And those dollars aren't being spent and they're being returned. So ensuring that we're spending dollars wisely, that we are listening to the employers in our communities who need a skilled workforce, and that we're directing those dollars to best serve individuals to receive the skills they need for better jobs in our community.
All righty, thank you. Folks, you're listening to and watching the Delegates Forum hosted by the Chesterfield Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Mike King, and we're here with the candidates for the 62nd District. All righty, ladies, the next time we're going to talk about healthcare, and Carrie, we'll start with you. A significant issue facing businesses is rising healthcare costs. One way that companies can combat healthcare costs is through group insurance plans. Do you support the expansion of group insurance plans like multiple employer welfare arrangements like MEWAs to make healthcare more affordable?
Yes, Mike, I have consistently supported association health plan legislation. I voted for it in 2020. Unfortunately, our majority in control in the state and our governor came back and removed that. It passed and then was taken away when the governor received pressure from folks. But, you know, rising healthcare and health insurance costs are becoming an increasing burden on families and small businesses. You know, if you look at just the realtors as a sector of independent contractors, 20% of just that one industry do not have health insurance. It's based largely on cost, but also, you know, independent contractors are completely left out of large group health insurance plans. And so I supported group health plans to allow members of trade associations or similarly situated independent contractors to pull together for membership to be treated the same as Virginia's large employers. You know, our large employers receive much better healthcare benefits than our smallest businesses and our smallest employers. You know, other states who have made this shift and have allowed folks to pull together to expand group health plans, they have reduced health insurance costs by 10 to 30% for people who live in their states. So we have a lot more work to do. I've been committed to it in the legislature. I will keep voting for it and being a voice for our small business owners and our independent contractors to receive the same low cost of health insurance that our large employers get.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Jasmine, same question. Significant issue facing businesses is rising healthcare costs. One way companies can combat healthcare costs is through group insurance plans. Do you support the expansion of group insurance plans like multiple employer welfare arrangements, MEWAs, to make healthcare more affordable?
I believe in supporting anything that makes healthcare more accessible and affordable to Virginians. Coming again from the local government standpoint, we use pooled insurance for our school districts as well. And so local governments also have a pool for our health insurance that we provide to our employees. So I definitely think that we should allow the private sector to be able to have that opportunity as well to ensure that Virginians have access to healthcare, especially during these times as we're coming out of the pandemic. I also believe that while we're looking at healthcare, it's also important to acknowledge that there are other protections that we need to give workers to ensure that they are healthy at work. There's a COVID-19 protections that were passed in General Assembly. Some were supported and some were not by some of our representatives. And I think that's really important if we talk about healthcare as a whole, we look at all the elements and making sure that people have improved quality of life. But I do support allowing small businesses and business in general to provide this option.
This is the Chesterfield Chamber Candidate Forum. I'm your host, Mike King, and these ladies are from the 62nd District, Jasmine, Gore, as well as Carrie, Coyner. Okay, ladies, we're going to touch on economic development and the business climate. Carrie, we'll start with you. Over the past several years, we've seen Virginia adopt a number of clean energy policies that increase costs for businesses. How do we balance environmental stewardship with the competitiveness of Virginia's economy?
Thank you, Mike. This is such an important issue. We are blessed in the 62nd District with a bounty of water frontage. We are home to a lot of waterfront along the James River, and it is so important to protect our natural resources. It is a balance, though. We do have to look at the costs to individuals to live in a community, as well as the ability for businesses to grow and to thrive. And it is a balance. And we have been a little out of whack in that balance. Some of these large sweeping environmental change bills that have come up in the last 2 years are going to, in the next few years, really hit the pockets of individuals who are doing their best to go about day-to-day expenses. And they're going to see rising costs in their energy at their home. We're already seeing rising costs in so many other things in our community right now. We have industrial users who rely on the ability to use water and electricity and power to run. Our particular district is the backbone for manufacturing and industry for our region. And so such an important issue that we keep balance on. One of the things I've worked on, we are running low on wetlands credits in our region. And current state law only allows you to pull from your region or immediately adjacent, which means we are losing out on businesses locating to our region when we do not have credits available. And we have to start addressing it now and looking at the environment as a whole and not individual programs, or we will continue to see businesses walk away from our community when we don't have the ability for them to move here and develop. So that balance is extremely important.
Alrighty, thank you. So Jasmine, same question. Over the past several years, we've seen Virginia adopt a number of clean energy policies that increase costs for business. How do we balance environmental stewardship with the competitiveness of Virginia's economy?
Certainly. I believe that where we are right now in terms of a global society shows that we need to put an interest in protecting our environment. And that's why we're having these tough conversations right now. I currently chair the Chesapeake Bay Local Government Advisory Commission to the Executive Council, and that is all the governors of the watershed states. We talk about this very issue because we understand that there is a balance between economic development, but then also protecting our community and our environment. And so Virginia passed a number of sweeping legislations, but a lot of them came with research. And I think that before we make decisions on exactly how we're going to move forward with a lot of these initiatives, we have to see what the data says. And we also have to look at the research to ensure that we're being fair about how we're going to do it, but then also most importantly, realistic, because we don't want to not accomplish our goals, but then also hinder those that we need to keep our economy going. And I think it's really important that we do take a look at investing in renewable job creation. We just talked about economic development and workforce development earlier, but I think that one aspect of that we are really not taking advantage of, is particularly in our area, is looking at how we can promote green jobs and look at those skills trades and to ensure that we have pathways to employment that way as well.
Jasmine, I'm glad you touched on that because that takes us right into the next question, and it'll be for you. How do we recalibrate policies aimed at protecting workers' rights, particularly around worker classification, to ensure that entrepreneurship and business growth are not stymied?
Can you state that question again, please?
How do we recalibrate policies aimed at protecting workers' rights, particularly around worker classification, to ensure that entrepreneurship and business growth are not stymied?
Oh, well, there's a lot of, if I understand your question correctly, I would definitely say that this is a hot topic in the General Assembly. There was a lot of legislation passed in regards to workers' rights. And misclassification, from my understanding, when we're talking about it, is also affecting contracts and how they're being underbidded, and how the misclassification of workers are cheating people out of fair pay when they're doing the work. And so there's a lot of elements regarding procurement as well as the HR aspect of it. But I would definitely say that as we progress through these conversations, because we have minimum wage that still needs to be addressed in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, as well as another hot topic issues, I think that we need to sit down and look at what the data says again. And I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a specific answer. And that's because I think there's a lot of research that has to go with that, because I understand at the same time, you don't want to hurt employers. You don't want to put them in a bad position to where they can't keep their doors open. But at the same time, you want to make sure that workers are given the fair wage that they're due. And also, I will definitely say along those lines, when we're talking about legislation that was recently passed, there was legislation about retaliation, other workers' protections, that I feel as if we kind of missed the mark here in our area in terms of protecting everyone.
Carrie, same question. How do we recalibrate policies aimed at protecting workers' rights, particularly around worker classification, to ensure that entrepreneurship and business growth are not stymied?
Mike, one of the things we saw during the pandemic was, folks trying to get through the completely dysfunctional Virginia Employment Commission, specifically our independent contractors, our gig workers, our folks who are entrepreneurs, and having the door shut in their face by those who were supposed to be helping them with unemployment claims that were valid, and saying, you don't meet our criteria. So we have a lot of work to do around our employment commission, supporting all workers in Virginia in times of crisis. That's one major issue we need to work on. Number two, defending and protecting our right to work is a pro-worker right policy. There's been a lot of rhetoric from folks running across the state right now about unions. We allow unions in Virginia, but it's a pro-worker policy to allow you to decide for yourself if you want to join one or not, or to allow you to negotiate on your own with an employer the terms of your employment. Right to work is crucial to maintain competitiveness in Virginia, to get the best businesses and the best jobs. VDEP, fiscal impact, if we eliminate right to work, 38,000 jobs will be lost in Virginia and $16 billion in capital investment lost. Those are huge numbers that are very anti-worker. So we need to ensure that we are protecting the right for Virginia's workers to negotiate their own terms of employment, to determine if they want to be treated as independent contractors, if they want to be full-time employees. It's important that you as an individual get to decide the future of your employment here in Virginia.
Alrighty, Carrie, we'll stay with you. Housing prices invariably increase as economic development accelerates. What's the role of state policy in ensuring the availability of affordable housing in light of population growth?
Mike, this is another great question. Affordable housing is actually in part how I ended up on the school board. I was a huge proponent of affordable housing, serving on Housing Opportunities Made Equals Policy Advisory Board, trying to help our region get more affordable housing. I will say, with all of the conversations happening across the state about evictions and protecting folks from being evicted during the pandemic, we lost sight of some pretty important legislation that was passed, the Housing Opportunity Tax Credit. What this tax credit allows is for VHDA to give credits to investors who will then have equity to finance affordable housing. So think about our young people right out of college, entering the workforce. It opens up the door for them to have the ability to live here because there's equity in place to finance that affordable housing. Something else that folks really don't realize when they say, well, I want a house that costs X. Most folks don't realize the amount of bureaucracy and regulations that are put in place before you can even start putting a foundation in the ground. 30% of your cost of a new construction is already in the dirt before you even begin. So if you've got 30% already right there, it becomes very, very difficult to produce true affordable housing in different areas. So
Alrighty.
I've worked for a long time in those policy areas and will continue to do so.
Alrighty, Jasmine, same question. Housing prices increase as economic development accelerates. What's the role of state policy in ensuring the availability of affordable housing in light of population growth?
Sorry about that. I definitely believe that affordable housing is the issue. Just looking at quick research, Chesterfield County in particular has a 5.2 eviction rate, and the U.S. average is 2.78. And that lets you know the issues that we have facing affordable housing. But there's a lot of stigma along that and outside of legislation. Oftentimes when people talk about affordable housing, they feel as if it's people in social programs, not working class individuals who need to have housing in order to be able to stay in their employment. And so we're talking about firefighters, teachers, the various people that we talked about earlier, those some of your questions. And so I do believe that some of the regulations can be loosened up. However, I also believe that people should recognize that, especially at the local government level, we waive a lot of those fees to ensure that we promote economic development, to make it more accessible for people to be able to build development here. But I also think along the lines of affordable housing, we have to revisit some of our social programs to make them more realistic, to help people come out of poverty and to move into their own homes and promote home ownership. And while we invest in new development, I think we also need to be investing in programs that help those move into houses. And so we can also get rid of some of our older housing stock and derelict buildings within the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I think that legislation should be put in place to also focus on the development of community housing agencies as well.
This is the 62nd District Candidate Forum with the Chesterfield Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Mike King. We are here with Jasmine Gore and Carrie Coyner. Ladies, one last question here. And we're going down the road with the acronym. So as you drop them, please enlighten and inform our listeners and viewers so everyone can stay informed. Alrighty, so Jasmine, we will start with you. How do we optimize the relationship between VEDP and local EDAs and IDAs to ensure that Virginia maintains its status as the best state to do business?
And the first part was, how do we do what with you broke out for me?
How do we optimize the relationship between VEDP and local EDAs and IDAs to ensure that Virginia maintains its status as the best state to do business?
Right. So one, I'm very excited to say that our community has had an EDA for a number of years. In terms of optimizing that relationship, I believe that there should be more communication between the organizations in order to promote economic development. There's a lot of parcels of land between localities that are not advertised as well as it could be, but there also can be some incentives in regards to helping us make development deals. I'll give one example. In our community, we had a parcel of land that we were going to get a community Walmart. We were $2 million short of making that deal work. And so we had to walk away from the table because we would have to increase taxes for our residents in order to bring economic development into our community. And so although we have enterprise zone incentives, which are great, we also have local enterprise zone incentives, which also help foster business development. We also have to recognize that some of these Go Virginia grants and things of that nature can also help to supplement us closing out deals in order to spur economic development. In particular, going back to some of those clean energy discussions that we had right before, bringing in some of those businesses as well. We can kill two birds with one stone as long as we make sure that the allocation of resources equitably. And the last thing I'll say is a lot of effort and energy is given to the same communities over and over again. And we need to make sure their investments are being given to those who need to be brought up. We're one of 8 fiscally stressed communities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so I think that while we promote economic development across Virginia, we also need to make sure that we're investing where it needs to go.
All righty. Thank you, Carrie. Same question. How do we optimize the relationship between VEDP and local EDAs and IDAs to ensure that Virginia maintains its status as the best state to do business?
Well, Mike, making sure our listeners know with all those acronyms, VEDP, our Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and our economic development authorities within our communities. So 2 things I'll tell you, representing Chesterfield County and Hopewell, it's really 2 lenses when you look at how prepared folks are. VEDP has done a great job of looking across the entire Commonwealth and seeing where sites are possible for selection for economic development growth. The problem we're seeing is that some localities are much better prepared for actual development. If your site isn't ready to go, we are not only losing out to other localities in Virginia, but we're losing out businesses to other states. So we really need more local governments to walk alongside with the state to get sites ready to immediately start construction. Chesterfield County, with their strong bond rating, their great ways that they have used their money, they are ready to go with more development. In the city of Hopewell, we've really struggled with our local government there, not having audits done of their years going back to 2018, 2019. Well, when you don't have audits done, you really have no financial records. You can't borrow money. You can't partner with folks. So some of our financial stressors in our localities are really a need for our local governments to get their finances straight. Right now, our city of Hopewell can't refinance any of their debt because they really have no credit rating right now. So really ensuring that our local governments are doing their part in working with our state partners so that those sites can get ready and they're ready to invest.
All righty, ladies, we're going on to state versus local authority. And Carrie, we'll start with you. 39 states, including Virginia, operate under the Dillon Rule. What's your general outlook on the future of the Dillon Rule? Do you think that Virginia should expand the autonomy of localities by allowing them to apply for home rule status?
No, Dillon's Rule is extremely important. It is extremely important to really attract businesses to our state. If you were looking to do business in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we allow all of our localities to choose their own playbook and their own rules, you really start to struggle with businesses knowing what the rules are in order to do business in the Commonwealth. It really also impacts our more struggling localities like City of Hopewell to compete. There are certain things that we need to ensure that we keep consistent across the state so that businesses look really evenly across the different jurisdictions. And this is one of those things that we do give, the state does give our localities authority. I think we do a good job of ensuring that the things that should be done by the localities are done by them. And I am always open to listening to all the localities I represent, Hopewell, Prince George, and Chesterfield, about things that they need and want more flexibility on. So having a voice at the state level who listens to their local leaders about when they need support is important, but that consistency we must protect as a Commonwealth to attract the best businesses here.
Jasmine, same question. 39 states, including Virginia, operate under the Dillon Rule. What's your general outlook on the future of the Dillon Rule? Do you think that Virginia should expand the autonomy of localities by allowing them to apply for home rule status?
Yeah, I definitely think that the Dillon Rule serves a certain purpose, but I think that it can be relaxed in many aspects because a lot of times the laws stifle our ability to do what needs to be done. And so I'll just go back to one point in terms of getting our bond rating and our finances caught up. I called an emergency meeting with the Auditor of Public Accounts, which is a state agency, as well as the Secretary of Finance and all those parties that were involved in helping make sure our state finances were in order. And we couldn't get resources because we were a municipality. And so one of the things I'm talking about, there should be some adjustments to that when we reach out to ask for assistance, we can receive it. But then also when we need to make some tweaks to match our economic development needs, our workforce needs, our housing needs, our environmental needs, that we have the ability to do so, especially when you come to independent cities, which are different than counties. Counties have a lot of money supplemented by the state. Independent cities have to make our operational funds off of our residents, especially if you come from a community like Hopewell, where the demographics are not those of, I think our median family income is $40,000. You can't tax people to death to improve their quality of life. And so if we can have other resources to bring in or flexibility to adjust some of the legislation that we have currently at our disposal, I think that you can really help communities thrive in the means that they need to. You can't have a one size fits all shoe on a lot of things. And so I think that's really important that we have some flexibility. And that's why I'm also running for the state house to ensure that those who understand what it takes to operate a government have the tools at their disposal to be able to do so.
All righty, thank you. Jasmine, we'll stay with you. Do you support tax equalization between counties and cities?
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that?
I'm not sure. 1 second here. Oh, how about Carrie, if we can, let me check 1 second here.
Or you can defer to Delegate Coyner.
All right, Carrie Coyner, you can go ahead and go with this one, please. And the question was, do you support tax equalization between counties and cities?
And this is one of the issues that continually gets brought up at the state level. And it's a fight between how cities are funded and how counties are funded from the state for tax dollars. And I think what it more highlights, because, you make you represent cities and counties, you make one group happy, you make one group upset. And the real answer is we should be looking at our localities and what their individual needs are and ensuring we're looking at a well-rounded tax plan for them. There's different conversations depending on the type of industries that are located in each area. We have folks who want to talk about BPOL, and we have folks that want to talk about credits that they're given for other things based on road projects. We really need to start having a more in-depth conversation about what are the financial needs to have healthy localities, whether they are a county or city structure, and stop pitting our neighbors against one another based on their form of government.
Alrighty, thank you, Jasmine. Gore, we'll come back to you on that.
No, I'm on the same page now. And so I think it goes back to the point I just made with your last question in regards to recognizing the differences between independent cities and counties. At an independent city level, Hopewell in particular has to fund our education system. We get in lieu of taxes, but it does not cover what we need to have, especially when it comes to our school system. We have to pave our own roads. We have to pay for our police force. And it goes back to the point that I said that you can't tax people to death in order to improve their quality of life. And so I think that there needs to be different tax rules when it comes to counties and cities, because counties are primarily funded by the state government. So when we build a new school in our community, we have to raise taxes or put a referendum up, whereas it's not the same as everywhere else. And I think it's really important for our state representatives to recognize, especially when they have state incentives that were originally designed to go to cities, that counties start to have a piece at, that they fill in that gap, because we are not one and the same, and having that lack of resources available to us makes it hard for us to be able to balance our books, but then also make that investment. And so what you have is people compare Prince George to Chesterfield or to Hopewell, when we really should have equitable treatment across the board in terms of making sure our needs are met. And it goes back to the point about Dillon's rule, but then also ensuring that the state recognizes that all localities are created differently, and you need to make sure that you provide the resources, especially when they are being highlighted as deficits, to say that you did something as opposed to calling out the issues.
All righty, thank you. So we're through the candidate questions. There's one that I have, and then we're going to give you a little bit of time as a wrap up. What was the draw to public service that brought you in, and where do we get the next generation of servant leaders from? Carrie, we'll start with you, and then you can have your wrap up after that. I'm sorry.
You want me to keep going into my wrap up or wait till after?
Yes, you can go to your wrap up after that.
Perfect. So, I will say my fall into public service really started from serving within my church community. I was working many years ago in an apartment complex with a lot of single female-led households through my mission work in our church, and really seeing that their voices weren't being heard at the local level. And took that advocacy to raise my voice and working alongside of them, and to really show them where they did have the same rights as any other parent, regardless of where you lived, what your zip code was. You deserve to have the same voice with your local government. Really led to folks pushing me to run for the school board, ran for that. And then again, folks encouraging me to take my passion for affordable housing and my passion for public education and go and advocate at the state level. I really love local government. It's at the heart of where I started, and my heart is still there. But I do feel like I have a strong skill set that gets things done at the state level. Being in the minority party, and having the most legislation passed of anyone there as a freshman delegate, I think really shows that I work well with everyone. I am always willing to work with folks and listen, no matter which side of the aisle that you fall on, if it means it's what's in the best interest of people in our community. My service to our community stems from loving all of my neighbors. And I have voted across the aisle about half the time on legislation because I believe it's what serves our community best. So I always put our neighbors here in the 60-second first. Politics is always in the background of everything that I do and how I lead and I serve. And I really do believe if we love people, we take action and we serve. So I will continue to be very involved. I think when you're an elected official, folks all of a sudden think that you have a different knowledge set than others. And I will say, you learn more about serving by being out in your community and talking to others. I've learned more by attending the farmers market in Hopewell and going out to neighborhood block parties on National Night Out and visiting with small business owners and having lunch and meeting the folks who are serving and busting tables and doing all of those things. That's how we serve best. It's what I've done. It's what I will continue to do. And I hope that the amazing voters in the 62nd will allow me to continue to serve and love them for another 2 years.
All righty. Thank you, Jasmine. Gore, same question.
So thank you. What called me to service is pretty much, it's my family. I grew up in a military family. My father and my mother are Army veterans. I currently work at the state as a veteran advocate, but before that, I worked as the clinical laboratory scientist and really have a feel of making sure I do my part to help my community. One of the reasons why I ran for city council was for my little brother. I was going off to college and I recognized that there was a lot of things that we need in our community in order to give him his best chance at life. Your zip code shouldn't determine your life expectancy or your life outcomes, but research and data shows that it does. And there's a lot of apathy in the community in regards to complaining about the same things or there being issues that have gone unresolved. And I wanted to run for city council to be a change factor in that. One of the reasons why I'm running for the state house is because it doesn't matter at the local level if you're a Republican or Democrat. We run for independent seats. When you have a pothole in your house or you have a trash issue, because we have trash collection issues right now, we have mail issues. It doesn't matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat, you have to deliver real results for people. And I'm really proud to share that the boards and commissions that I have served on at the state house, at the national level, and even local to deliver real results to people. It's just not about getting things done. It's just making sure that the things that are done make a direct impact to what matters most, which is the people and the businesses within our district. And most importantly, our students as we help the next generation move forward. And so one of the things I do want to close on is, since we're talking to the business community, it's really about the product and not so much the brand. You get a lot of messaging throughout election time at all levels, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, all those seats. And it's not about seeing and reading what people want you to think and hear because they're trying to sell a message. It's about looking at the product that you have and looking at the track record matches, where they stand the issues, and if they have done the work to make some direct results that impact you. And so it's more about delivering results. And I think I've done that at the local level. I've done that at the state house in regards to the boards and commissions I've served on. I've done it at the national level. And so I'm looking forward to doing that for the 62nd district.
All righty, well, ladies, I'd like to thank you for coming on. It's been my honor to moderate this. This is the 62nd district for delegates, and I'm going to turn it back over to Danielle Fitzhugh, the chamber president.
Thank you all. Thank you all for participating. I think you got 12 days left of door knocking and campaigning. So I know this is down to the wire, but we appreciate your time this morning, and happy wrapping up campaign season as we head into November 2nd, Election Day. As always, Mike, thank you for the support. We'll see you on the first, if not before, at our Business Expo. Yes. And thank you all again. Have a great day.
Thank you, Danielle.
Have a good day. Good luck, you guys.
Thank you.